Background of Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka. Paul Bernardo. Born on August 27, 1964, in Scarborough, Ontario, Paul Bernardo appeared to have a relatively normal upbringing, but behind his charming exterior lay a troubled individual. From a young age, he exhibited signs of sociopathy, including manipulative behavior and a fascination with control and dominance. In his late teens, Bernardo began committing a series of sexual assaults in Scarborough, becoming known as the Scarborough Rapist. These attacks, which took place from 1987 to 1990, involved stalking and raping women near bus stops, terrorizing the local community. Karla Homolka. Karla Homolka was born on May 4, 1970, in Port Credit, Ontario. She was described as a bright and attractive young woman, known for her love of animals and her seemingly caring nature. Homolka met Bernardo in 1987 when she was just 17 years old, and they quickly developed a toxic and intensely passionate relationship. Karla was drawn to Paul's dominant personality, while Paul found Karla's submissiveness and willingness to please him appealing. Their relationship. The couple's relationship was built on power dynamics and mutual sadism. As their bond deepened, so did their criminal behavior. Karla, infatuated with Paul, was willing to participate in his violent fantasies, and this partnership eventually led them down a dark and destructive path. The crimes. The murder of Tammy Homolka. On December 24, 1990, Karla Homolka decided to give her sister Tammy, who was only 15 years old, as a gift to Paul. Karla assisted Paul in drugging her sister with halcyon, a sedative, and halothane, an anesthetic stolen from the veterinary clinic where Karla worked. As Tammy lay unconscious, Paul and Karla sexually assaulted her. However, Tammy began choking on her own vomit, and despite attempts to revive her, she died. The couple dressed her and cleaned the scene before calling 911. Tammy's death was initially ruled accidental, attributed to choking on vomit, and the drugs were not detected in the autopsy. The murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. On June 15, 1991, Bernardo abducted 14-year-old Leslie Mahaffey from Burlington, Ontario. She was brutally raped and tortured over the course of several days before being murdered. Bernardo and Homolka dismembered her body and encased the remains in concrete blocks, which they disposed of in a nearby lake. The remains were discovered on June 29, 1991, shortly after the couple's wedding. On April 16, 1992, the couple kidnapped 15-year-old Kristen French in broad daylight. Over the Easter weekend, Kristen was subjected to similar brutal torture and sexual assault. On April 19, she was murdered, and her body was dumped in a ditch in Burlington, Ontario. Escalation of violence. Throughout their relationship, Paul's violent tendencies escalated with Karla's encouragement and participation. The couple filmed many of their assaults, capturing the brutal acts on tape. Karla's role in these crimes became increasingly active, demonstrating her complicity and sadistic nature. Investigation and arrest. Initial suspicions and investigations. The investigation into the Scarborough rapes had been ongoing for years, with police gathering DNA samples from potential suspects, including Paul Bernardo. However, due to backlog and limited resources, Bernardo's DNA was not immediately processed. Meanwhile, the disappearances of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French were linked due to the similar modus operandi, and the police were under immense pressure to catch the perpetrators. The community was terrified, and the media coverage was extensive. Arrest of Paul Bernardo. In early 1993, Bernardo was finally linked to the Scarborough rapes through DNA evidence. He was arrested on February 17, 1993, and during a search of his home, police found numerous videotapes that showed the assaults on Leslie Mahaffey, Kristen French, and other victims. Initially, Karla played the role of the innocent, abused spouse, claiming she was a victim of Paul's violent control. However, As more evidence emerged, including her active participation in the tapes, it became clear that Karla was not just a bystander. Karla's plea deal. Karla Homolka made a deal with the prosecution in exchange for her testimony against Bernardo. In what is often called the deal with the devil, Karla agreed to plead guilty to manslaughter and received a 12-year prison sentence. This deal was made before the full extent of her involvement, as seen in the tapes, was understood by the authorities. The deal sparked outrage as it became apparent that Karla was a willing and enthusiastic participant in the crimes, not the coerced victim she portrayed herself to be. Trial and conviction. Paul Bernardo's trial. Paul Bernardo's trial took place in 1995 and was one of the most sensational in Canadian history. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including the videotapes that showed the brutal attacks and murders. During the trial, the jury was shown disturbing footage from the tapes, and witnesses, including Karla, testified against Bernardo. He was ultimately convicted of multiple counts of first-degree murder, aggravated sexual assault, and kidnapping. Sentencing. Bernardo was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. He was also declared a dangerous offender, meaning he is unlikely ever to be released from prison. Throughout the trial, Bernardo displayed little remorse, and his demeanor further solidified his image as a remorseless predator. Public reaction. The case received extensive media coverage, and the public was horrified by the details of the crimes and the perceived leniency of Karla's sentence. There were widespread calls for justice reform, particularly concerning plea deals in cases involving severe violence. Karla Homolka's release. Karla Homolka served her full 12-year sentence and was released from prison in 2005. Her release was met with public outrage and concern, as many felt her punishment did not fit the severity of her crimes. After her release, Homolka changed her name and attempted to live a quiet life, but her past followed her, leading to various media exposures and relocations. Aftermath and legacy. Impact on victims' families. The families of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French were devastated by the loss of their daughters. Their pain was compounded by the details of the crimes and the prolonged legal proceedings. Both families have been vocal in advocating for victims' rights and changes in Canada's criminal justice system. Changes in Canadian law. The case led to significant discussions about the treatment of violent offenders and the use of plea deals in Canada. The public outcry over Karla's plea deal contributed to stricter laws regarding dangerous offenders and sentencing guidelines. There was also a push for better support systems for victims of sexual violence and more robust investigative procedures to prevent similar oversights in future cases. Bernardo's continued imprisonment. Paul Bernardo remains incarcerated and has been denied parole multiple times. He continues to be regarded as one of Canada's most notorious criminals, and his case is often cited in discussions about the country's most heinous crimes. Bernardo has expressed little remorse, and his applications for parole have been met with fierce opposition from the public and the families of his victims. Karla Homolka's life post-prison. Since her release, Homolka has lived under various aliases and has kept a low profile, though occasional media reports have brought her back into the public eye. She has remarried and had children, leading to further controversy and debate about her rights as a free citizen after her involvement in such grievous crimes. Legacy and cultural impact. The case of Paul Bernardo and Karla Homolka remains one of the most chilling and discussed crimes in Canadian history. It has been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and even fictional adaptations. The legacy of the Ken and Barbie killers serves as a grim reminder of the depths of human depravity and the complexities of justice in dealing with violent crime.